Hey guys, today is Wednesday, July 1st. July 1st, everybody. Wednesday, as I said, July 1st, 2015, comic book day. I picked up a huge stack today. This is the stack. It's going to be probably 3 videos. You can probably tell what the 3 are going to be because the spines have a little bit of coloring. So it's going to be like these. These are the DC books, and then these are the Marvel books, and then we have 3 independent books, and that's going to be the videos. So starting with the DC book, specifically starting with Bat-Mite number 2. Now, I really liked the first issue of Bat-Mite. I thought the humor was very much like Animaniacs, and it continues in this issue. Very, very much like Animaniacs. Very, very funny book. I am really enjoying it. So we also have more of a return to, I guess, what I was first expecting from Bat-Mite from this book. So we have him opening with the problem of rescuing Hawkman from Doc Trauma. Sorry if you hear any squeaking. That's my little dog who's just running under the camera right there. And in case you're wondering if why the video might look better than it has, I cleaned the camera, which I probably should have done a while ago, but I finally got around to it, and now things should look better. Anywho, back to Bat-Mite. We start off where we left off last issue with Bat-Mite rescuing Hawkman from Doc Trauma, who wants to switch brains with him. And in true Bat-Mite fashion, he just warps Hawkman out of there because he can bend space and time because he's from the 5th dimension. So he's basically can do anything. And so that's a short story over. And then he decides while he has Hawkman with him, he might as well give him a makeover because he's one of the less popular heroes, and Bat-Mite decides he wants to try and fix that for Hawkman, do a buddy a favor. And these are a bunch of the ideas he comes up with. And I love them. I love them all because like you have a lot of these kind of classic Hawkman kind of looks. And then you have the Bat Hawkman over here because Bat-Mite's obsessed with Batman. As I'm sure are a lot of people. Hawk-Bat, he says. And then he settles on, instead of the Savage Hawkman, Hawkman the Savage. He just switched that around. Anyway, yeah, just very, very much like if the Animaniacs were in the DC universe is the feel I'm getting from this book. And like I said, I really like it. I'm someone who grew up with Animaniacs, really love that show still. If I'm in a certain mood, will like YouTube clips of it, and it still holds up. So if you're looking for that sort of humor, for kind of random, like we'll just yap, like, you know, Groucho Marx, but for kids sort of humor, then Bat-Mite should be right up your alley. There even is a fight. This page in particular, very much like Dot from the Animaniacs, where he's asking about taking Hawkman's spot in the Justice League, and he does the the pretty please, and just very, very Animaniacs style humor, really enjoyable stuff. You know, I mean, obviously this is meant for a younger crowd, but hey, you know, if you like this sort of thing, who am I to judge depending on age, especially because I happen to like it very much. On the art side, too, really love the art, bright, colorful, cartoony art in this book, and it's a fun read. It's just really fun and happy, and there's, you know, that's not as plentiful as it should be in comic books. So yeah, Bat-Mite, really refreshing, fun, happy book. So sorry for the quick cut there. Next up is Batman Beyond, issue 2. Unfortunately, I'm not feeling so hot on this book as I am Bat-Mite. Again, written by the same guy. I'm not sure how one is doing so much better than the other. Maybe comedy comes easier to Jurgens than not comedy. This isn't exactly drama. I don't know what it is. It's not really going anywhere all that fast. Basically, we start with Tim Drake being rescued by Barbara Gordon who's kind of a freedom fighter in the now future, what is happening. And yeah, Brother Eye is processing people, which is just brainwashing them. And then, yeah, they have to avoid being brainwashed by Brother Eye. It's not a complicated book. It's not something that couldn't be done well. It's just something that isn't all that engaging. One of the people are kidnapped and is being brainwashed. It's the fight scene isn't all that great. There's a fight between Batman and Ink, who is a villain from the Batman Beyond cartoon. She's back in this book. Yeah, it's just nothing about this really works for me. I mean, the art, I guess, is probably a highlight. It's still mainly like a drabby brown post-apocalypse, but I mean, I just really like the bat suit. I really like how the black and the red pop just within the suit and then pop out of the brown-gray backgrounds. But that's, I think, says more about how boring the backgrounds are than how exciting the suit is. There's just not a lot on this book keeping... The characters haven't really been established in a way that makes me want to care about them. Everything happens so fast. People die or get processed or whatever. And we don't have enough time to care about their deaths, really. Barbara Gordon, like, everyone's older, so you have Barbara Gordon, who's more gruff and hard-bitten because she had to grow up in the Brother Eye future, and I don't know, just this book isn't really working for me. Not much to say about it, just meh, and, just to save money, I'm probably not going to pick it up anymore. But if you decide to keep reading it, feel free to tell me if it gets better in the comments or whatever. Next up from DC is Midnighter. I really like the first issue of Midnighter, and this one continues along that strong path. It's not as strong as a single issue, I'd say, but definitely setting up kind of what Midnighter is going to be. I get a strong Moon Knight feel from this book. Again, just 2 issues in, but in terms of that we have a hero that kind of enjoys the nitty-gritty of fighting. And we have a just kind of like short, self-contained stories. We have the overall arc of somebody stealing weapons from the God Garden, but it's really barely touched upon. It's more of a framing device for how the villain appears rather than something Midnighter is really investigating, at least until the last 2 pages of this comic. But we begin with this random lady. I don't even know if she's really given a name. Pat. No. Pat is the husband that dies. Marina? Anyway, she's kind of the villain of the week, or villain of the month, because it's a monthly book. But she is the villain of this book, and she's not even all that villainous. Basically, she wants revenge on this big kind of Monsanto corporation. It's not really Monsanto. They're called Watercress or Windcrest. Sorry, they're called Windcrest. They're this big food organization who were negligent and allowed a poison that would affect a small group of people with allergies to release into the market. One of those people was her husband or brother, some sort of important male figure in her life, and she wants revenge for them being negligent and killing him vis-a-vis their negligence. The guy who stole all the weapons from the God Garden gives her a weapon called the Killing Sounds, and she goes all Uma Thurman in Kill Bill on everybody in the building that they work out of. So she's killing a lot of innocent people on her way to confronting the board members of this evil plant organization thing. And of course, when innocents die, Midnighter decides that he's going to get involved, especially as it concerns something with the God Garden. So the opening half of this book is Midnighter stopping this threat, which he does partially by deafening himself. The weapon that she has only works if he can hear it, so by deafening himself, he renders her powers inert to him. Something I noticed about this book overall is that I don't know if it's the same artist. I wasn't really paying attention that closely to names on the book, but the art has definitely suffered a bit from the last issue. Faces just don't look right in this issue. Let me get to another. Yeah, like none of the people look right when not wearing a mask. If you look at just like this face where she's using her power against Midnighter, and then the page where Midnighter is actually hit by the attack, he just looks better in costume. It's like this guy can't draw the top of heads or something. Yeah, it's just really weird looking. Or compare her face here to Midnighter's face over here, and yeah, it just people don't look right in this book. It's like King of the Hill, but I don't know, like a little lazier or something. It's a weird sort of thing going on. And this kick, it looks like this is just an unfinished drawing, this panel over here. So the art has definitely taken a bit of hit in quality from the last issue, in which I quite like the art in the last issue. I don't know what happened in between now and then. After Midnighter takes down the Killing Voice woman, Marina, he goes on a second date with the person who he went on a date on in the restaurant in the last issue, this time to Moscow, while they're being openly homosexual, which is not really allowed in Russia, and he's wearing an American flag t-shirt, so he's purposely trying to instigate a fight with some Russians, which he gets. Yeah, we continue to the rest of the fight, or rather the rest of this encounter after Midnighter's done fighting Marina, where we discover that Midnighter's sense of justice is actually pretty strong. He punishes Marina, sends her to jail, but then punishes the board of executives of the Windcrest Corporation for openly poisoning a number of people and being criminally negligent, and orders them to pay for Marina's legal fees and all that, because fair is fair. And that's, again, like strong character building, that this guy, he doesn't have a horse in the race. He just, whatever, he has a strict moral code. It's not quite sure what that moral code is, but he's going to follow it no matter what. That's, he's a no holds bar kind of guy. What else do we got? So yeah, that's most of the book. We then get a short epilogue sort of thing. Well, not quite an epilogue, but then a flashback to how Midnighter broke up with Apollo. Apollo being his ex-boyfriend from the what's the name of that group? I can't remember the name of the group he was in. Stormwatch. I think it was Stormwatch. Pretty sure it was Stormwatch. So yeah, Midnighter and Apollo were a gay couple in Stormwatch, and that was years and years ago. But apparently that's still canon, because in this issue we get their last fight, and we get a really great line as they're fighting that Midnighter just walks out. Apollo asks, "Where are you going?" And Midnighter responds, "You know me. I already know how this fight ends," because that's Midnighter's superpowers. He has that precognition of fight things. So yeah, I really liked the writing in this book a lot more than the art. This book is really good at giving character details by way of kind of action instead of exposition. Just really good at adding a bunch of flavor to fight scenes, to action bits that characterize Midnighter a lot better than if you were to just sit down and tell someone, hey, I'm Midnighter, and I like this, this, and this, and I'm angry at this, this, and this, and blah, 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 blah. Keeps the story moving, keeps the story dynamic, so really, really enjoying this book. I hope the art picks up, though, because some of these panels are just painful to look at. Next up is Green Arrow, issue 42. Again, Green Arrow, a book that I've been on and off on since the New 52 relaunch back in 2011. This is a period where I am on the book. Last issue was the start of a new arc involving these the mysterious deaths of a lot of black people all throughout Seattle, being perpetrated by this weird albino guy who's showing up at all these murders. We also get talks of the of these nightbirds, which kind of kidnap people and kill them. And we open with a short kind of omen regarding the crazy sidewalk lady from the last issue, and the deathbirds as somebody falls to the death falls from the sky to their death. And immediately moving on from this gruesome image, we have what strikes me as very, very kind of Hawkeye, or very, very Matt Fraction's Hawkeye, where we have the archer, the female sidekick, and the dog, which is how Matt Fraction set up Hawkeye in issues basically 1 and 2 with Clint, Kate, and Lucky. Now we have Oliver, I forget her name. It's not, I checked the book this time, her name is not mentioned anywhere in this issue. And the dog, who's named George, I think, by the end of the book. Yeah, George. So, kind of establishing Clint, I mean, not Clint, see? They're really pulling the Hawkeye thing. Establishing Oliver as more of a small-time, not huge, he's not a Justice League or any of that, he's just defending Seattle, he has a dog and a sister, that sort of thing. The main plot of this issue kind of steers away from the Nightbirds thing, steers away from the albino killing black people thing, and moves on to the threat of the Panopticon, which is a proposed law enforcement tool from this guy, what's his name? I forget his name. His name is in the book somewhere. His name's not all that important, actually. All we really need to know is that he's an inventor dude. He comes up with the Panopticon, which is basically Ed 209 from RoboCop with tentacles. And that's kind of where this book goes from here. The Panopticon is introduced, is obviously evil-looking, and goes on to be way too strict in terms of law enforcement. It has criminal profiling software and does not show mercy. So there's this poor girl, obviously hungry, stealing a burger, very much like the beginning of Aladdin, or what's that play? Les Mis, and the bot kills her for stealing the sandwich. We then see the Panopticon going around, just killing people for committing crimes, no matter how petty, and Oliver decides, okay, that's enough of that, time to stop this once and for all, and he kind of does. He gets into a fight with the Panopticon, and I'm not going to spoil how the fight ends because it's a spoiler. We also get a quick little nod to the last issue with the albino guy who seems to be in cahoots with the Panopticons as he pulls this very War of the Worlds looking scene in this page. So, yeah, there's also a lot of this book that seems to be harkening back to the more socially aware era of Green Arrow. Oliver, or one of the cops during the initial unveiling of the Panopticon, talks about how this criminal profiling is very unnerving to him. Oliver yells at one of his assistants about how the Panopticon device is classist and racist and should be fascist, racist, and classist, dangerous, and like has no restraint, should be taken off the streets. And of course, we have in these pages over here, we have the albino who's set up as a villain, throwing the panopticon against a bunch of 99 percenters, or people with the 99% sign. So we're getting kind of very strong hints of the more socialist aspect of the Green Lantern character, which we haven't really seen a lot of often. Also, the inventor's name is Aaron Zim, so the guy in the panopticon here is Aaron Zim. It's said on the page I'm looking at. But yeah, we have a strong return to the socialist, leftist kind of Robin Hood Green Arrow character that we haven't really seen in a while, as far as I know. So that's lovely. I like that, really differentiating him. And just as someone who's has more socialist leanings himself, I like seeing that in my superhero books. So yeah, I would recommend Green Arrow. Pretty enjoyable. A lot less noir feeling than the first issue, but they're definitely going forward with this story. I like all the RoboCop feeling things because RoboCop's a great movie. Not a lot that I don't like in this book, actually, so I recommend it. And next up, we have Batman Detective Comics issue 42. And this comic is, first of all, great cover. Just wonderful cover. That's something that you can always count on from Francis Monopoul, or I think he's the artist, Francis Monopoul. Yes, no. Fernando Blanco. He's the artist. Oh, I feel dumb now. But Brian Bucci, I thought it was the Flash team. Oh yeah, Monopoul was the writer in the Flash, and Buccellato did the colors. But yeah, no, great art either way, no matter who did it. I mean, if you want credit, they're on the cover there. You can actually read it because I cleaned my camera. So yeah, I want to give those guys credit for the brilliant art in this book. And all the pages are just as good as the cover. So there's no love lost for art in this book. But this book really seems to be about Harvey Bullock, more so than about Jim Gordon as Batman. We open continuing the fight from the last issue with Batman versus this gang over here. We learn their name. What is their name? Like the Los Mortos, or what were their names? It was a cool name too. I know it said somewhere. I'm flipping right through the pages. La Morte, yeah, La Morte. This cool street gang with the bazookas, and they are just prepared for Batman. This opening fight scene is a strong loss. It's a strong losing battle for Team Batman as they are prepared for his every move, essentially. We start with him already up against the wall from a bazooka shot, or a RPG shot that happened last issue. And we have Harvey running support as Batman tries to get back on his feet, but he doesn't stay there for long. La Morte really quickly take out his knees and basically leave the Batman suit defenseless. The only way that they survive the encounter is a lucky flash of the lights that blind them and send them running, and also all the cops comes back up. But basically, this is a loss for Team Batman. La Morte are clearly more prepared and more experienced and just know what they're doing. But as I said, after that initial fight scene, this book really quickly becomes about Harvey Dent and Montoya, Renee Montoya. Most of this book is between these two characters, between Montoya and Bullock, or between Bullock and Officer Yip. But it's about the cops. This is a cop book. It's a police procedural that happens to involve Batman, and it's really well done for that. You have a strong kind of a strong atmosphere in the police department of Gotham, that nobody can really trust each other. That Harvey is one good cop in a sea of a lot of corruption, and he doesn't know whether he can trust Montoya or not. He doesn't know whether he can trust Yip or not. So he's constantly kind of careening back and forth, trying to get the full story on everybody who is anybody. The only person you really can trust is Jim Gordon, but as Jim is Batman, that's not a relationship that's really safe anymore. Batman could die at any moment. Jim is in way over his head, as they discuss here, and so we get an interesting kind of profile on Harvey Bullock. I've said Harvey Dent before. Profile on Harvey Bullock, who is a good detective. That's something, like, if you only grew up on the cartoons, if you haven't really read a lot of the comics, that's something you can miss and think that he's more of a comic relief character. But Bullock is a good detective, as we learn in this book. He's good at his job. He's an honest cop. And this follows him as he's dealing with all of these changes in his life, which involve now working hand in hand with the Bat instead of just letting Batman do his thing. He's actively on Team Batman now. We then end with a second encounter with La Morte, where Jim is again ambushed and taken out of the suit, and we end with Jim exiting the bat suit, preparing for a fight that he is way outnumbered in, and the support team involving Bullock and Montoya are on their way to help him out. So, yeah, again, really liking this book. I'm really liking how they're making Detective Comics about the detectives. It's not about Batman so much. We have so many other books about Batman. So this one is about his support team, giving it a nice kind of change of perspective on the events of the comic that we don't... Sorry about that, got interrupted again. As I was saying, the comics... the comic is taking the perspective of the support team, which I really like because it offers a unique perspective, a unique point of view on the events of these, Batman events and Batman comic book happenings that we don't usually get just from the point of view of Batman. So it's also just really well done. Harvey Bullock as a character is really well established. You get just from his dialogue, you get a strong sense of personality. You know his motivations. You know who he trusts, who he doesn't trust. And even though you can't really piece together everything going on in his head, you get a good idea of why he does what he does. So, Batman Detective Comics 42, I'd pick up 41, pick up 42, so far taking a really interesting direction, and I can't wait to see where it goes. And the last DC book this week is Action Comics 42, and I just want to say how much I love this book. It is just kind of, I think, what a modern Superman should be. We begin with Superman fighting off the Shadow Monster from the last issue, and he, it's a little on the nose, but Clark in his inner monologue, it shows how much that this book gets Superman. So we have Superman in a depowered state, and while fighting this giant monster, Clark remarks to himself, I've lost most of my powers. The whole world knows my secret identity. Half the cops in Metropolis apparently want to kick in my head, but when a 30-foot-long shadow monster attacks the city, it's still my job to fly in and save the day. That no matter what the circumstances, Superman will save us. He will fight the things we cannot fight. He will defend us from the things we cannot defend ourselves from, because he is the only one who can. And then after he defeats the Shadow Monster, using some ingenuity as well as a giant iron girder, Superman does something which I think, especially today, is incredibly important. Just a show of solidarity with what Superman means, what that S symbol came to mean, what the importance it took over the past 75 years, is we have Superman defending a public, peaceful protest from cops. We have a Superman who, even in his depowered state, is standing up to corruption, to bullying. He's defending peaceful people, a peaceful protest against the police. And it's not even a protest. This is just a peaceful demonstration of solidarity with Superman. And he is making a wall, making a chain between the protesters and the police. He's doing. I mean, this is. It just speaks so well to the modern day, to what has been happening in the news recently, especially in America, where you have the protests in Ferguson, the protests in New York City, these people who are being vilified because they're gathering together, because they have ideas that the cops don't agree with, that the authorities don't agree with, and Superman is defending their right to protest, to have an opinion, and to show it peacefully. It's their First Amendment right, and that's so important. And that speaks to really the origin of the character. The first Superman books have him fighting corrupt business officials and protecting the homeless from slumlords and all that. And here we have him standing up to cops who want to mow these people down by their own admission. And it's just so important, I think, to show that in a Superman book, that no matter what he might, no matter how many times he goes to space and how many adventures he has that are completely out of the ordinary, Superman's purpose is to defend people. He is there to make sure that humans aren't bad to each other. He stands up for the little guy, and so I love that they show this in this book. That this book is about Superman taking a beating, defending people from unjust authority. So yeah, I just, this book hits me right in all the, oh my god, this is what Superman should be. This is the important stuff. So yeah, and I love that. I also love that he's doing it in jeans and his t-shirt. I just, really shows that he's one of us. That he is, as powerful as he is a folk. He is a populist, and that's so important to show. So I'm really glad that that is what happens in this book. That is it for the DC books this week. Next video will be the Marvel comic books, and after that, some of the independent stuff I picked up. Also, I'll be reviewing Batman Arkham Knight soon, so keep an eye out for that video, which should be up by Saturday. Definitely before Saturday. I'm going to try and have it up tonight, but I'm busy. I have a lot more comics to review. So, yeah. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please subscribe if you want more of these. Any comments, whatever, feel free to leave them down below. And yeah, once again, thank you for watching. Hope you'll join me next time for more comic book reviews.